I kind of wanted to dive into the world of college hockey. College hockey is Marcus's forte. This guy's the college hockey expert. You should be following him if you care about college hockey in any capacity. Marcus, who is the teams to know, and what's your like top 5 right now in NCAA's? And we can also talk some Hockey East.
All right. Well, top 5 in NCAA. I mean, one has to be out of the way. Boston University.
That must hurt to say.
They're coming. It does hurt to say because, I mean, shoot, my father told me, he goes, when you go to college and if you go to a hockey school, you are going to understand what it's like to lose to BU. And I know what it's like to lose to BU, and it sucks because they're always so good. And this year, they have the projected number 1 overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. Played for the Chicago Steel. He's really good. I can't name his stats.
Did you say Celebrini?
Sorry, I take Italian. So like,
yeah, you probably played a lot of Chel.
I take Italian, so CE is a ch for me. My bad. But
Macklin, really? Maybe you're all right. Maybe I'm wrong. You're the Italian. You're the Italian.
All I know is this: he's good, and he's really going to help that top line for BU. That they kept most of the roster for me. So looking at it, they're going to dominate. They made a Frozen Four appearance last year down in Tampa, but they got absolutely mopped by Minnesota. This year, you look at it, and now they don't even have a star in Lane Hudson on the defensive side. You're bringing in a star on the forward side because they had a very good forward core, but I think what they were missing was like that one key like star guy. And now you're bringing in a guy like Celebrini. You're bringing in Macklin.
We'll call him Macklin.
We'll call him Macklin. You're bringing in Macklin. And he's going to be amazing. Also in the goaltending stance, Matthew Caron. Drew Comesso for the goaltender for the Terriers last year. He's now in Chicago.
Yeah.
So they needed to go in the transfer portal. They found Brown's Matthew Caron. He has a career 920 save percentage with Brown. So that should bring him some goaltending in the back end for my first place. That's for sure. Someone else I'd like to see in my top 5 is Quinnipiac. I mean, they kept their big 3 in Colin Graff. I forget their other 2 names. It was
Sam Lipkin.
Lipkin, too. He's another guy. And I think Jacob Quillian's another guy you want to look at.
Yeah.
But they still have almost the same roster. The only thing I'd say that stinks for them is they're losing Yannick Peretz.
Yeah.
He's now on to the NHL.
Where'd he go, Carolina?
Yeah, he's on Carolina now, but there's still going to be...
There's some collusion there because didn't he play with Brendan Moore's kid?
Yeah.
Brendan Moore was on Quinnipiac last year,
Skylar's now on Florida, too, which is kind of funny. But most of the team is coming back. Quinnipiac's going to be an offensive powerhouse. The only thing I'd say is we'll figure out their goaltending, but they're still in my top 5. Another team...
Can I say one thing on Quinnipiac? What? Quinnipiac kind of reminds me of, like, Gonzaga in college basketball. Like it's not the most talented. Well, Gonzaga's starting to pump out some like draft lottery talent, but like it's not all these talented young guys. It's more so like the juniors and seniors, they develop it right. Versus like a BU, Michigan, that's all these like to first round draft picks, which is great, which those players are going to be better in the long run. But in college hockey, when you have a 22-year-old grown man going against like a 19-year-old kid, that extra 20 to 30 pounds does matter, especially at the college hockey level. So Quinnipiac, because they're not this massive name, haven't been able to recruit at that level, but they get like the ideal guys. And who's their coach again?
I forget his name. My buddy's friends with him. I forget his name.
But like, he just
coach.
Yeah, he just knows who to recruit, and he's just so good at developing. So when they are those juniors and seniors, they're just so physically imposing and can just dominate. I remember watching that game against Minnesota, and it was so uniform, so well coached against them because Minnesota obviously had that super line last year, but Quinnipiac's overall strategy and physicality was able to neutralize them for most of the game. So I love watching Quinnipiac play. What conference do they play in?
They play in the ECAC, which is also known to many college hockey fans as the Easy AC because
they go like 27-2-2 every year or something.
Yeah, no, they dominate that conference all the time, and honestly, they've been building this program. It's been 30 years in the making. So can
they like apply for hockey membership? I mean, like they're kind of close.
So the way I remember when Harvard came into the Hockey East for a year, and then I remember I think it was Harvard or Notre Dame. Notre Dame was starting their hockey program in the Hockey East.
That's so far away.
I know that it was weird, but I think the Hockey East is like strict. It could work.
It makes play like it's New New Haven area, like it's near New Haven, right? Yeah, so that's close. That's 2-hour, 3-hour drive from Boston.
Yeah. The thing is, for me though, if Quinnipiac came into the Hockey East, that conference would be it's like the SEC. It would become the SEC in football.
You'd have to like expand the tournament to like 32 teams.
Oh my God!
It'd be absolutely loaded.
It's a loaded. Yeah, you're right. It is a loaded team, and such a good program that's been building up. Hold on, what the hell? Their coach's name is, what's his name? Oh, this is the women's team. What? Right, Rand Pecknold.
Rand Pecknold. Yeah, he's a stud.
Fudge. He's such a good coach. I remember a story when he went on I think it was Spittin' Chicklets, and he said he would have like 13 goalies trying out in his early years, and he'd say like, "Can you play forward instead?" That's where he started, and now he's on top of the world.
Yeah, no, it's why like Quinnipiac, like all the rest of the schools, there's a couple like the Minnesota like St. Cloud or like that come out of nowhere is Minnesota St. Cloud. But, like that's Hockey State. The fact Quinnipiac went from some small Connecticut school to hockey powerhouse is absolutely insane. Another team that I think is going to be interesting is Boston College. Talking mainly Boston right now. Boston College brought in Will Smith, Gabe Perreault, Ryan Leonard, Artem something, some guy that went in the 4th round.
Will Smith.
I said Will Smith.
You did? Oh,
yeah, geez. Drew Fescue or whatever. Like they by far had the number 1 recruiting class last year in the nation. What's your kind of expectations for them? Because they really weren't that good of a team last year, right? Weren't they like sub 500?
It was, they were about a 500 team. They were getting over the Jerry York hangover sort of thing, where you lose a Hall of Fame coach, and it's like, nobody wants to play for you all of a sudden.
Transitional year, yeah.
A transitional year, right? And so like many Hockey East teams like Merrimack took advantage of that because, I mean, shoot, they've been dominating for God knows how long. But and they had to have like Cutter Gauthier, like, try and take most of the load. And now you look at it and it's like you have Gauthier and then those NTDP guys.
It's gonna be nuts.
And another player I want to mention is Jacob Fowler in the goaltending category. He was a 3rd round pick to Montreal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what he can do, but I mean, oh my God, this team
the offensive talent is going to be oozing, dude. It could be levels of, if it's like Leonard, Smith, Gauthier on that first line, or Perreault for Leonard, that could be as good as maybe even the Minnesota Knies Snuggerud Cooley line last year. I loved him. I love Logan Cooley. I think he's an absolute stud. Matthew Knies is a 6'3" freaking unit. I think that line's gonna be fantastic. Because Gauthier, last year with not a lot of talent, still had like 37 points in 32 games. He was like the most underrated player in college hockey somehow, even though he was a 5th overall pick, has all this hype around him, dominated the U.S. developmental scene. I remember I went to Frozen Fenway and he just stood out because he's like 6'3" or 6'4", absolute beast, just flying around the ice. Whenever he had the puck on his stick, I was just in like awe, and his shot was next level.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cannon. It's a goddamn cannon. So I think this year, when he has a playmaker like a Will Smith or Gabriel Perreault, their 2 play styles with Cutter Gauthier to just rip home goals, I think he can score, what would be a high number, like 25 in college hockey? That'd be like a 25 and 25 season.
Very good number to have.
Yeah. I think that they might not be the best teams. I don't know how good their defensive core is. I'm not too aware of that. But in terms of offense, they're going to have one of the most explosive offenses in college hockey, no doubt.
The sky's the limit. I mean, normally you don't see freshman teams with a lot of freshman talent take off, but I feel like they're gonna surprise a lot of people. Not many people are looking at them where it's like, oh, they're a real scary team. I'm scared of Boston College this year in the Hockey East. They're going to finish top 3 in the conference, and I would not be surprised if they made the national tournament and did some damage in there. So watch out, because the Eagles are right back where they're supposed to be, and I'm so mad about it.
Yeah, Merrimack one good year. Comes crashing. It was your freshman year too.
Can't have it.
You peaked as a freshman. How does that feel? Your team peaked as a goddamn freshman.
Well, it's still gonna be a fun competitive year. I'm excited because there's so much competitiveness coming to the Hockey East. I mean, shoot, even next year, I'm already looking at next year where it's like Cole Eiserman is coming to Boston University. It's like you've got to deal with that, and then just
Cole Hudson too. Cole
Hudson, yes, Lane's brother, man. Oh my god!
And then I saw, I was a week or so ago. Jimmy Hagan's the projected like top 2 pick in 2025. He committed to Boston College. It's like, it's pretty interesting how for a while everybody was going to Michigan, Minnesota. Not saying it's been a complete shift, but it seems like some of the top guys recently are heading. Maybe that's just because those guys were from the Minnesota, from that area, versus Eiserman is from the Boston area. I think Hagan's is from Northeast as well. But it is pretty interesting how some of these Boston programs are taking back college hockey compared to these Big Ten massive programs.
Right. As a young kid growing up, constantly watching it, mostly it was New England that kind of dominated the landscape of college hockey. You also had, I wanted to also mention some other teams that are still going to be good, even though they might have lost a little bit of NHL talent. Minnesota's still going to be contending. They're still a great program. Denver, they still got Massimo Rizzo. That's a guy I'm high on.
That's an all-world name.
I know,
Massimo
right?
Rizzo.
Maximum Riz. That's what my friends call him. Michigan's still going to be great. A team to
Michigan's
look out
a little
for,
bit like I was looking at the roster. They have Gavin Brindley, who was it was like first pick in the second round.
Right.
They have Seamus Casey, Devils second round pick, Rucker McGrody, Jets, but it's a pretty down year for Michigan compared to the last 3 years. They've had Power, Hughes, Beniers, Fantilli like come through there.
Right.
It's going to be very interesting to see them to see how they do without by far the most talent in the goddamn league.
They did also add a defenseman I really liked watching last year, Marshall Warren from Boston College. He's a pretty solid defenseman. He'll add straight into their lineup. He'll solidify that defense. Another team I want to look at, an underdog team that I don't even want to consider them underdogs because they're a giant that has been sort of sleeping. North Dakota. North Dakota is starting to work their way back to that, premium dominance that they used to
Jonathan Toews.
Oh my God. I mean, some names I'm just looking at one of my screens here. Jackson Blake and Reese Gaber, they were last season's leading scorers for the team. Mm-hmm. They've brought in a couple players from the transfer portal. Cameron Berg from Omaha, Hunter Jonas. I don't even know these. Some of these guys are like low guys you wouldn't hear of because they're from like lower programs, but they're better scorers from those lower programs, right? So you bring those low end guys to North Dakota, and you never know. The sky's the limit for that team. I just can't wait to see what they can do, especially with Jackson Blake returning. Now he's a sophomore. Preseason, he made the preseason poll for all NCHC. I forget what division they're in. Golly, look at me. But they're a team I'd want to look out for.
Yeah. I remember, and I was looking. I think Jesse Pollock. I was talking about.
Yeah, he went there. Yeah,
Jesse Pollock went there. Sickest arena ever, and actually, the U.S. developmental program kid that actually follows me on Instagram, EJ Emery, just committed there. So they're on the come up, and it's good, especially because they're not like one of those premier Big Ten programs. So it's good to have more diversity instead of just Michigan and Minnesota dominating the Midwest, and they've been one of the premier programs over the last 30 years. So it's always good when they're good.